If you stop a person on the street anywhere in the Western world and ask them to define Kung Fu, the answer is almost always the same. They will describe a system of combat. They will talk about Bruce Lee, high kicks, the Shaolin Temple, and the violent clash of bodies. In the global cultural consciousness, the term has become synonymous with fighting. It evokes images of warriors in orange robes flying through the air, or action stars dispatching enemies with lightning-fast strikes. We see it as a weapon, a method of self-defense, or a category of action cinema. But this understanding is fundamentally flawed. It is a linguistic accident, a misunderstanding that has persisted for decades, obscuring the true depth of one of the most profound concepts in Chinese culture. To view Kung Fu merely as a way to hurt someone is like looking at a painting and only seeing the frame. It misses the picture entirely. In its native land and in its original context, the term has nothing to do with war and everything to do with time. The misunderstanding began when Chinese martial arts were first exported to the West in the 20th century. The visual spectacle of the fighting styles, the tiger, the crane, the mantis, was so captivating that the philosophy behind them was lost in translation. The audience saw the punch, but they did not see the years of standing still that made the punch possible. We adopted the form, but we forgot the essence. To understand what Kung Fu really is, we must strip away the Hollywood myths and look at the ink on the paper, at the very characters that make up the word. The term Kung Fu, or Gongfu in Pinyin, is composed of two Chinese characters, Gong, Gong, and Fu, Fu. The first character, Gong, translates to merit, achievement, or work. It implies a result that is not given, but earned. The second character, Fu, translates roughly to man or husband, but in this context, it signifies time or maturity. When you combine them, the literal translation is not martial art. It is skill achieved through hard work and time. It is an equation. Effort multiplied by duration equals Kung Fu. This definition changes everything. It means that Kung Fu is not a noun, it is a state of being. It is a quality that can be applied to any human activity. A martial artist can have Kung Fu, but so can a painter, a musician, or a chef. If a calligraphy master spends 40 years perfecting the stroke of a brush until the ink flows as an extension of his soul, he has Kung Fu. If a carpenter can run his hand over a piece of wood and know exactly where the grain will split, he has Kung Fu. It is the pursuit of excellence for its own sake. It is the refusal to accept mediocrity. In this worldview, the fighter is not special because he fights. He is special because he has dedicated his life to the perfection of a movement, just as a poet dedicates his life to the perfection of a verse. The punch is simply the brushstroke of the warrior. There is a famous Taoist parable written by the ancient philosopher Zhuangzi that perfectly illustrates this non-martial Kung Fu. It tells the story of Cook Ding, a butcher who was cutting up an ox for a king. The king watched in amazement as the butcher's knife moved with a rhythm like a dance, slicing through the meat without ever hitting the bone. The king asked how his skill had reached such perfection. Cook Ding laid down his knife and replied, "What I care about is the way, which goes beyond skill." He explained that when he first started, he saw the whole ox. After 3 years, he no longer saw the ox as a whole, but understood its internal structure. Now, he said, I deal with it in my spirit and do not look with my eyes. Cook Ding went on to explain that a good cook changes his knife once a year because he cuts. A mediocre cook changes his knife once a month because he hacks. But Ding had used his knife for 19 years, and it was still as sharp as if it had just come from the whetstone because he found the spaces between the joints and let the blade wander there without resistance. This is the essence of Kung Fu. It is not about force, it is about flow. It is about understanding the nature of the material, whether that material is an ox, a block of stone, or an opponent in a fight, and moving in harmony with it. It is the transcendence of technique, where the tool becomes a part of the body, and the effort disappears, leaving only the pure act of creation. If Kung Fu is simply the pursuit of mastery, why is it so heavily associated with the Shaolin monks? Why did a temple dedicated to Buddhism, a religion of compassion, non-violence, and detachment, become the most famous military academy in history? This is the central paradox of the art. The origin of Shaolin Kung Fu is often attributed to Bodhidharma, a Buddhist monk who traveled from India to China in the 5th century. Legend says that upon arriving at the Shaolin temple, he found the monks in a pitiful state. They were spiritually willing, but physically weak. They fell asleep during meditation. Their bodies could not support the rigors of their quest for enlightenment. Bodhidharma realized a fundamental truth. The spirit cannot soar if the vessel is broken. He introduced a series of exercises, believed to be the Yi Jin Jing, muscle tendon change classic, designed to strengthen the monks' bodies. These were not originally fighting techniques. They were calisthenics, a form of physical yoga. However, the temple was located in a lawless wilderness, prone to attacks by bandits and wild beasts. Over centuries, these health exercises evolved. The movements designed to stimulate the flow of qi, energy, were adapted for self-defense. The broom used to sweep the courtyard became a staff. The focus used in prayer became the focus used in combat. The monks did not learn to fight for glory or conquest. They learned to fight so that they could continue to sit in peace. Their martial prowess was a byproduct of their spiritual discipline, not the goal itself. At the heart of this discipline lies a concept that Western science has struggled to quantify, but which Eastern philosophy accepts as the foundation of life: qi. To the Kung Fu master, the body is not merely a collection of levers and pulleys, muscles and bones. It is a conduit for energy. If the physical movements are the hardware, then qi is the electricity that powers the machine. The practice of Kung Fu, therefore, is not just about learning how to punch. It is about learning how to breathe. It is moving meditation. Consider the practice of Zhuang, or standing like a post. To the uninitiated, it looks like punishment. The student stands motionless, knees slightly bent, arms held out as if embracing a tree, for 20, 30, or 40 minutes at a time. Nothing happens on the outside, but on the inside, a war is being fought. The muscles scream for relief, the mind begs to move, but the will holds the posture. In this crucible of stillness, the body learns to relax under pressure. The student learns that tension is the enemy of power. By removing the physical blockage of tension, the blood flows freely, the breath deepens, and the qi circulates without interruption. This is the secret that the masters knew. You do not generate power by tightening your muscles. You generate power by releasing them, allowing the energy of the earth to travel up through the legs and out through the hands. Why did the ancient masters look to the forest for instruction? The tiger, the crane, the snake, the leopard, and the dragon. These are not merely cool names for fighting styles. They are philosophical archetypes. The masters observed that animals possess a quality that human beings have lost: total presence. An animal never doubts itself. A tiger does not worry about the future. A snake does not regret the past. They exist entirely in the now, moving with perfect efficiency and economy. Humans, burdened by consciousness, anxiety, and ego, are clumsy by comparison. By imitating the movements of the animals, the Kung Fu practitioner attempts to reclaim this lost natural state. But it is not just about mimicry, it is about embodiment. To practice the tiger style is to cultivate hard energy, to strengthen the bones in the spirit, to embrace directness and ferocity. To practice the snake is to cultivate soft energy, to learn precision, patience, and the ability to find the weakest point in a defense. To practice the crane is to learn balance and grace. The student suppresses their human ego to let the spirit of the animal take over. It is a form of shamanism preserved in combat. The goal is not to become a beast, but to reintegrate the primal wisdom of the beast into the intellect of the man, creating a being that is both civilized and wild, rational and instinctual. Perhaps the most profound lesson of Kung Fu is the lesson of water. In the Tao Te Ching, it is written, "Nothing in the world is as soft and yielding as water, yet for dissolving the hard and inflexible, nothing can surpass it." This is the principle of Wu Wei, often translated as non-action or effortless action. In the context of fighting, it means that one should never meet force with force. If a rock falls into a river, the river does not fight the rock. It flows around it, eventually wearing it down to sand. In the hard styles of the West, if an opponent pushes, you push back. In the internal styles of Kung Fu, like Tai Chi or Bagwajang, if an opponent pushes, you disappear. You yield. By emptying yourself, you create a vacuum that the opponent falls into. You use their own aggression against them. This requires a radical shift in mindset. It requires the courage to be soft in the face of violence. But this softness is deceptive. Water is heavy. Water can crush steel hulls. The master seeks to be like the ocean, calm on the surface, but possessing immense, crushing pressure underneath. This philosophy extends far beyond the dojo. It teaches that in life, rigidity leads to breaking. The tree that refuses to bend in the storm will snap, but the bamboo that yields to the wind will survive. To have Kung Fu is to be adaptable, to flow through obstacles rather than crashing against them. If Kung Fu is not about fighting others, then who is the opponent? The answer is found in the grueling repetition of the training forms. A student may be asked to perform a single punch 10,000 times. Day after day, year after year, the routine is the same. There is no applause, no glory, only the silent monotony of the practice. This is the filter. This is where the true fight takes place. The enemy is not the bandit in the woods. The enemy is the voice in your own head that says, "This is boring. I am tired. I am good enough." Kung Fu is a systematic destruction of the ego. The ego wants quick results. The ego wants to look cool. The ego wants to be better than others. The discipline of Gongfu demands humility. It demands the acceptance that you will be clumsy before you are graceful, that you will be weak before you are strong. It teaches that the belt around your waist is meaningless if the spirit inside is hollow. The black belt mindset is a destination, but Kung Fu is a journey without a destination. There is always a deeper level of relaxation to find, a more perfect circle to draw, a more subtle flow of energy to harness. The master knows that he will never win Kung Fu. He can only practice it. The victory is not over the man standing across from you. The victory is over the part of yourself that wants to quit. How does this ancient philosophy survive in a world of smartphones, deadlines, and instant gratification? One might think that Kung Fu is obsolete, a relic of a time when men fought with swords and rode horses. But in truth, the spirit of Gongfu is more necessary now than ever before. We live in an era of distraction. We are constantly bombarded by noise, notifications, and the pressure to multitask. We do everything quickly, and therefore, we do nothing deeply. We have lost the few, the element of time and patience. To practice Kung Fu in the 21st century does not strictly require a dojo or a set of robes. It requires a shift in perception. The programmer who spends hours refining a single line of code until it is elegant and bug-free is practicing Kung Fu. The mother who patiently teaches her child to tie their shoes, remaining present and calm amidst the frustration, is practicing Kung Fu. It is the rejection of the hack, the shortcut, and the easy way out. It is the understanding that the value of an action lies not just in the outcome, but in the quality of the attention brought to the action itself. When a master pours tea, he is not just moving liquid from a pot to a cup. He is fully embodied in the movement. He feels the heat, the weight of the ceramic, the flow of the liquid. There is no past, no future, only the pouring. This is mindfulness in motion. If we can apply this level of intent to our daily lives, to our driving, our cooking, our conversations, then the mundane becomes magical. The chaotic noise of the modern city fades into the background, and we find a center of stillness that travels with us, an unshakable fortress built not of stone, but of focus. Ultimately, the highest level of Kung Fu is not the ability to kill. It is the ability to not kill. There is an old saying in the martial arts world: the novice uses his fist, the journeyman uses his weapon, the master uses his mind. The sage uses nothing. The journey that begins with physical violence ends with spiritual peace. The young student learns to fight so that he can protect himself. But as he progresses, as he cultivates the confidence of the tiger and the wisdom of the snake, his demeanor changes. He no longer walks with something to prove. He walks with the quiet assurance of a man who knows his own capacity for destruction and therefore has no need to demonstrate it. This is the final paradox. The ultimate purpose of martial arts is to make martial arts unnecessary. The master radiates a presence that diffuses conflict before it begins. His awareness is so sharp that he avoids the dark alley. His ego is so small that he walks away from the insult. He has turned his body into a lethal weapon so that he can keep the sword in the sheath forever. He has climbed the mountain of violence only to look down and realize that the view is one of peace. So, when we ask, what is Kung Fu? The answer is not a kick or a punch. Kung Fu is the heat in the chef's pan. It is the ink on the poet's page. It is the silence in the musician's pause. It is the invisible thread that connects effort to excellence. It is the art of being human, practiced with total devotion, one breath, one step, and one moment at a time. The training never ends, because life never stops teaching, and that is the true way.